Do you love your job and wish you could take it on the road with you? Well, when COVID turned Mindy's job into a home-based opportunity, that's exactly what she did. In this episode of Big Lap Business, we talk to Mindy from Life in Olli to discuss how she took a real job and turned it into her van life reality.
So I'm Mindy, and my family and I travel around full-time around Australia in our van called Olli. It's a 2014 long wheelbase Sprinter, and we've turned it into our tiny little home on wheels. And it's just me, my partner, and my 4-year-old daughter.
Yeah, beautiful. And obviously this podcast is kind of about making money and working from the road. So I know you've just finished up the position you were working in, but can you just tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So before I left on this crazy adventure, I was actually working for a not-for-profit called Baby Give Back. And I was actually heading up their operations in their warehouse and doing basically a little bit of everything. But then when COVID hit, I was due to start traveling, and basically because JobKeeper got implemented and all of our jobs in the warehouse became digital anyway, I was fortunate enough to keep my job for 5 months. So I had to do a little bit of a change of job title, and I moved more into the social media, graphic design, sort of online space. And yeah, but I basically maintained my job for the first 5 months that we were traveling.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, so when you say you'd already kind of prepared to go traveling, had you planned to sort of quit your job, or are you plan to take it on the road anyway?
No, we had actually, my partner and I had both picked this date like almost a year ago and had handed in our resignation, and we were working towards that date, saving every dollar that we could. We didn't have a house to sell or anything like a lot of travelers have. We pretty much had no assets. We poured everything into building our van and moving to Australia because we're from America. And yeah, so we just had a date. We were going to go and then go as far as we could, stop, find work in whatever town we were in. But yeah, because of COVID, our circumstances changed pretty much overnight, and I was able to continue working, which has allowed us to continue to travel this long, and we haven't had to stop and find work at all so far.
That's pretty cool. Now, when you sort of transitioned from working in the office and that kind of thing to working on the road, was that a big adjustment?
Oh my goodness. It was like a huge shock. I'm a really social person, and because my role was basically like, working in a big team, and it was really hard for me. I felt lonely in my role. I was sat at a computer, which is not my vibe. I'm usually up on my feet, walking around a warehouse all day. Mm-hmm. So on that level, it was really difficult. And then I had been dreaming of this travel life for so long, like years and years, like handing in my resignation and laying on a beach, playing with my daughter, all that fun stuff that we dream about. And all of a sudden, that was my partner. He was out there doing all the fun things, and I was sat on the computer in the van. And honestly, the first couple of months, I'm pretty sure I almost quit my job every single day. But then I sort of got into a bit of a routine and had to keep reminding myself that I was really fortunate that I had a job during these COVID times, and that I had a job that I was able to take on the road. And I was constantly, my view was changing out the window. I was still looking out of a window, but yeah, I got into a pretty good routine, I think. And then in the end, I think I now almost miss work on the road because I missed that routine. And it's only my first month of really not working now on the road, and I'm finding it a little bit hard to try and fill those times. The days seem really long, I guess.
Absolutely. Now let's talk a bit about that FOMO of your partner and your little one out doing things, because I'll be in the same boat when I sort of leave on my big lap. I'll be working from the road because my husband's a carpenter. Well, he can work from the road, but it's much easier when you've got this full-time gig that you can constantly be moving with. So how did you manage that? And was it something, a conversation you had with your partner about, I don't want you to be going out, or were you happy for him to go out and just suck it and stay and work?
Oh, I probably should have had a conversation multiple times, but instead I internalized it all and just became like resentful of everything. I was probably really hard to live with it at that time, but he's a champion. He took over all of the cooking, and he always made sure the dishes were done and that Naya was happy. And honestly, as a mum, I found a lot of comfort in watching how happy she was and that they were getting this time together, because previous to this, even though I worked at home, I've worked Naya's whole life, but she was in kindy and I was the one that picked her up. I could customize my hours where he was gone from 6 a.m. until, whenever he got home at night. So I kind of had to just switch my mindset and be happy for him that he was getting this time with her, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So in terms of, because obviously your partner's not working, but in terms of sort of funding your big lap, had you already saved some money, or, how's it been sort of living off one person's wage?
We hadn't saved very much, to be really honest, but from the very beginning, I had made a point of saying that we're leaving on this date. It's not like when we reach this amount in our savings account or whatever. I picked a date because I knew that we would never have enough money to confidently say, sure, let's quit our jobs and travel. And I didn't also want to say we're going for 6 months, we're going for 12 months. It was just, we're leaving. We'll see what happens. If we only make it to Cairns from the Gold Coast, then great. We tour a little bit and then we'll get work and keep going. And I don't know, I'm a really big believer in, things just happen and you find yourself in the right place at the right time if you're a good person. And that kind of has guided our entire lap from the very beginning, from day one, where I ended up being able to take my job on the road. That opened up a lot of doors for us to be able to travel where we wanted, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then since finishing that, we've been really lucky that our cost of living is just incredibly low. We're in Tasmania right now, and you pay a lot of money to get here on that boat, but you don't pay for anything. I'm currently sitting looking at some of the most beautiful beaches that I've ever seen, and it's completely free. So we kind of just customize where we are, what we're doing based around what our income is going to be for that month. So right now I knew this was going to be my first month with no income coming in. So we're choosing somewhere where we can, just enjoy all nature and things like that don't cost money. But
yeah. And it's a big step, isn't it? Sort of getting pushed out your sort of corporate comfort zone to live this life of kind of going with the flow. And I know you had that sort of secure job for that time being, but then your mindset of, what will be, we're going on this day and that's that. That's kind of the mindset you've just got to adopt on the big lap, right?
100%, because nothing goes to plan. And I know that some people like to have a plan, and I'm sure that there's pros to that. But every time that I've tried to have a plan, whether it be booking Tasmania or, the date we're going to go to Western Australia, nothing has ever gone to plan. So we just don't have a plan. We float around. And I think that the best outlook to have when you're traveling in general, whether it's just a short holiday or living on the road, is just being open to meeting people, different opportunities, because, we bumped into a couple in Alice Springs and then ended up moving into their property for a couple of weeks while I actually worked for them and helped them setting up a company that they had. And just lots of different things have come our way, that just because you have an open mind, and it wasn't like, oh no, it's nice to meet you, but we have to leave in 2 days because we're booked into the next caravan park. And, we're just kind of floaters now, I guess.
I love it. I think that's great. Now, in terms of your next steps, so you've just finished your sort of corporate job. What is the next step for you?
Well, I have a bunch of little passion projects, things that I've, just been mulling in my brain, I guess, that I'm going to put a little bit of time into, see if any of them come to life or worth any more of my time. And then I've kind of given myself till March before I start looking for work, I guess. I'm definitely looking for work in the digital space. Don't think I'm ever going to go back to a regular 9 to 5 in a business, but I just really like the opportunities that social media has. And it's not necessarily being the typical influencer or posting pictures, but for me, I like taking photos and I love making videos. So we've worked with caravan parks and Airbnbs and different products, and just that collaboration world. It's nowhere that you're going to make a ton of money, but any little amount of money that you can bring in on the road is amazing, basically, because it just tops up and saves you from chipping away at the savings that you do have sitting there. So it's all stuff that I do anyway. I love to document our travels and I love to take pictures and things like that. So if you can capitalize on that, writing blog posts, things like that, it's pretty much what we're all doing on the road anyway. So just getting into that field of trying to turn that into a small form of income is kind of what I'm focusing on at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for a lot of people doing the lap, that's the dream of theirs, really, isn't it? To turn their travels into into a source of income, I suppose.
Yeah.
So let's get to the nitty gritty of that, because, you know, we can say, okay, we'll post on Instagram or we'll do this or we'll do that and take pictures of our travels. But what are your steps that you're going to take to see whether you can make money out of this?
Yeah, for me, I'm not really putting any pressure on it because I don't ever want to look at it as work. Honestly, it's my biggest passion is just documenting Naya's life. Like, I just am so envious that my daughter gets to grow up doing this. Like I said to her today, I was like, Naya, she was having a meltdown about her hand in her pants or something like that. I said, have a look at this beach, Naya. Some people will never see something so beautiful. This is normal for you. Like, you're so lucky. So I just really, really, really love making videos and taking pictures of, so that she can look back and go, wow, this is, you know, what I got to do when I was little. So I don't want to turn that into work where I have to take that picture, or, you know, I don't want to go somewhere only with the purpose of trying to get a shot or whatever. So for me, I'm not putting any pressure on monetizing what I'm doing by any means, but there's a lot, like, obviously I've owned a business for multiple years and I've worked in the business social media field for a while. There's so many opportunities that don't have to look like typical work. People love the whole word of mouth element of social media, and so basically if you're traveling and you're really good at sharing your adventures, you're open, you build an honest relationship with your community. It can be a small community, it can be a large community, it doesn't really matter, as long as you have a good, you know, rapport with your community, people will pay for that. And, you know, just basically finding brands that we're already using their products and then reaching out to them and saying, hey guys, this is what we do, you know, you pay for photographers anyway, send us your product, we can showcase it for the same kind of funds. And it's actually, there's a lot of opportunity out there if you're willing and you're confident enough in your skills and what you can offer, and treat it like a business, not, you know, here, I want some free stuff so that I can get free stuff. It's very different, and I'm not against it. Like, if you get products sent to you for free for you to try it, that's amazing. But I think as soon as you can try and pivot it and turn it into a business, it's just seeing the worth in what you're providing. And it takes a lot of time, and, you know, you have to fine tune your skills. So I think that's just the only difference. And I think that a lot of people want to do it, and I think there's room for a lot of people to do it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And it was interesting there about what you said about reaching out to the brands that you're already working with and using on a day-to-day basis, because I think a lot of people in this space don't actually know how they can make money from it, right? They're like, well, I've got this following, what next? But it is a case of finding the brands that resonate with your offering, your current offering, and reaching out to them, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that comes back to the confidence in your skill set and what you have to offer. So it is a sales pitch. You know, if I'm going to reach, like, we were coming to Tasmania, perfect example. I don't have a raincoat. I'm from the Gold Coast. I needed a raincoat. An opportunity arose with a company that were launching a new raincoat brand. Instead of just going, oh, I want a free raincoat, I can pitch myself as, hi, I'm happy to do a location photo shoot, you know, et cetera, and sent through proposals, attached images of the concept that I had envisioned. And then we got to work with an awesome brand and create an entire campaign, which we're now shooting their winter range. And, you know, things like that will evolve into larger opportunities, but you just have to, I guess, be confident in what you have to offer, I guess.
Exactly. And I think it's all about showing the brand that you want to work with that you can provide value.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing to kind of note that you know, it is that sales pitch. It's I can do this for you. I can offer this for you, rather than, hey, can I have something free because I've got X amount of followers?
Yeah. And I think it steps away from the following a lot. There's a huge shift in social media at the moment, away from the typical influencer to that micro influencer with a smaller following, but a closer knit following. And basically, if your friend told, like, if I said to you, hey, I just got this new drink, it's amazing, have you tried it? You're going to listen to me because I've just told that to you. Whereas posting a beautiful picture on social media, 9 times out of 10, people are going to skip through it. They're not going to engage with it, because that's just, we just consume too much content, and people see that just as a paid opportunity and move on. Whereas when you are talking on your stories and they've seen you using this drink 100 times, and then you might mention that the reason you like it, type of thing, it's a little bit different. So I think there's a big shift in how people are marketing products on social media. Yeah, which I think is exciting because it opens up to the smaller followers.
Exactly. I was going to say, that drink's not sponsored, by the way.
No. I showed it backwards, but I don't know.
She knows what she's doing. You got to pay for that.
Yeah.
But that kind of brings me on to the different side of that, in that you've got to know your worth, right? And you've got to know your value, because there's so many people in this space who can just be like, yeah, I've got a free thing. But like, how much are you going to get paid for that? Like, really got to think about what your value is, rather than, oh, I got a free drink or whatever it is, right?
Especially once you're in a community, in a niche community like we are, travel, especially if you knock it down even further to that traveling family community, you get to know everyone, and you can see when a product has been shipped out to everyone. It pops up on your feed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not saying if it's a great product, then we're all going to promote it because we all use it, and that's fine. But I think you have to be really, really careful if you want to treat this like a business, that you're not saying yes to everything,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're trying the products. Like, I've very recently had a product that I've had to not promote it after receiving the product, because it's not for me. We're not actually going to use it long term, and I would never share that, until I've tried it, used it, and believe in it. And I just think when you're new to this and you're getting into it, it's exciting to get stuff. And I just think there's being really careful and not going for every opportunity and picking the right ones.
Yeah, that's such a good call as well. You got to keep your integrity, because long term, that integrity will pay dividends.
Yeah. I mean, my online community are like my friends. Like, on the road, this is it. It's just our little family. So they mean a lot to me. And so I just think that, just be mindful of what you're sharing on social media and make sure it truly is something that you really like. I pretty much only work with small brands because I don't have a large following and I'm new to this, but they're all like small mum brands that I genuinely have purchased the products before. I love them. And then now I can use my platform to help promote them, and things like that. So it's pretty awesome that I get to help, share those kind of businesses.
Absolutely. Now, I want to look at the other side to this, that the side that if this doesn't work, and I'm not saying it won't, I want to talk about what you'll kind of go into in terms of getting back into like that paid hourly or contracted work. So what's the plan there, and how will you go about finding work?
100%. I don't think that this is ever going to get us a house deposit. I guess for me, the social media realm is just getting a little bit of a kickback for how many hours I put into editing pictures and making videos and things like that. So I never am going to treat social media like my job. It's just a really fun project, I think. For me, working in the online space probably will look a lot more like I've started 2 companies and then helped my sister with the startup of her charity. I absolutely love that. The beginning phases of a startup company where you basically wear 100 hats and do a little bit of everything, but then you get to see something go from, a dining room table to an office.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite feeling. I don't want to start another company because I've done it twice and I'm happy to say I've survived. I don't think I have it in me to start another one. So I would love to come across another little mum run business that possibly don't have the skill sets in social media or graphic design or photography, that I can use my passions and help them grow. Also totally open to the whole VA world of virtual assistant, where I can it's not as exciting and it's a lot more admin stuff, but it's stuff I can do with my eyes closed. And, if that can just be a little bit of an income on the side, I'm totally open to that world as well.
And I think that's an important thing to note as well. You talked about your passion, and doing something you're passionate whilst on the road will actually help you keep on track, right?
100%.
Yeah. So in terms of sort of actually finding those roles, have you got a strategy?
As far as like social media stuff or VA type?
Either.
So I'm a part of a bunch of really cool Facebook groups that I've been a part of for ages, mainly due to working in the not-for-profit sector. I was always looking, one of my roles was partnership forming and things like that. So always looking for other businesses to partner with for sponsorships and blah, blah, blah. So I'm in some really cool women in business pages. And they are constantly calling out for help in certain areas, which happens to be my niche role. So I probably will just work within those groups. And I haven't put my hand up for anything because I've been fortunate enough to have work. But I guess given my timeline of probably around end of February, March, I'll hopefully find somebody that aligns with me and we can work. Most likely it'll be short contract work. I don't particularly want to commit to anything long term as well, because I don't know where my travels are going to go. I don't know how much reception I have in certain places. So having short term contract work works really well, because we can buckle down in a city so that Naya's got things to do I've got good internet, and then we can bounce off and go off grid for a little bit.
Yeah. And let's talk about that whole needing reception, because if you're working on the road from your internet, from your laptop, you absolutely have to be in reception. So how did you deal with that when you were working your last job?
Really poorly. On Optus, and there's that whole battle of Optus, Telstra. Everyone will tell you Telstra's got better reception. We happened to already be on Optus, and we were willing to swap one of our phones to Telstra, but we thought, well, we'll just keep going until we don't have reception. We traveled up the east coast of Queensland, totally fine. There's reception everywhere. And then the Northern Territory borders were about to open, so we darted across Queensland, like through Mount Isa and that. That is actually a dead zone to all providers all the time. So that was probably when work life got really hard for me, because I'm a bit of an overachiever. I didn't want to let anyone down, even though my role was very flexible, as in like I could work one full day or 5 short days. It didn't matter as long as I was completing my tasks and my hours. However, I just had it in my head that I needed to show up to work every day. And if my emails weren't checked, I was panicking. So I spent a lot of time driving back and forth to towns, climbing up hills, holding my hand up in crazy positions, trying to get reception. But ultimately it was just pressure on myself. And I think that it's pretty easy to figure out where reception is, and especially with wiki camps, you can look at a camp, swipe up, it'll tell you if there's what provider there is. We ended up getting a Telstra phone to help it, but honestly, Optus has outperformed Telstra more often than not. So we've actually just got rid of our Telstra phone. So, you know, it's doable, but there is a lot of places in Australia without reception.
Yeah, definitely. So when you sort of move forward and have a more, you know, structured work life when you're on the road, will you be thinking about that a bit more? Probably, or will you just be going with the flow?
Probably not. I mean, I know that you can get boosters and selfie and all of those things. I don't really want to customize my life around work that much. The whole point in this venture was to sort of unplug and live life on our terms and not based around a work schedule. So within reason, I understand that I would have deadlines and things to complete, but I do think that, as you know, if I'm going into a role, it's going to be, hey, I live in a van, I travel Australia. It's not like I'm sitting at home, a stay-at-home mum that can sort of access work whenever. So I would only really take on a position that understood that I could send an email on Friday afternoon and say, hey, actually not going to be in reception next week. Happy to complete all my tasks the following week. So I think I just have to be really open and honest with it. Yeah, I just don't want work to control us, especially at the moment. We're still only 8 months into our trip, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that you said that just proves that you can do it, that you can dictate what you want to do. And, you know, it's all about being sort of clear on what you want and what you want out of work and what you want out of travel, and fitting those things in and not making one dictate the other.
Yeah, I think ultimately I hold a lot of value in myself, my skills, who I am as a person, and how what I can bring to a job, whatever it may be. And it's taken a long time to see that. But I think if you're a valuable employee, people are happy to work with you. And as long as you make sure you deliver or over deliver on your tasks, people aren't going to care if you know, do it 2 days late, or as long as you tell them, obviously, or you complete everything on the first day and then don't work for the rest of the week, kind of thing. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think we'll kind of get to the end of this podcast now. But I want to ask you a bit of a question about COVID and, you know, how everything kind of eventuated, and whether it's taught you that, you know, you can pretty much do whatever job from the road.
Yeah, I think we had already planned to be on the road without a job, and it just so happened COVID happened at the exact same time. But I think it's opened up a world of opportunity for people. There's so many people that are working from home and thriving in their job online. And yeah, I think now more, well, we know for a fact, because every campsite here is basically booked out. There is so many people that have hit the road, and I just think it showed everyone that you don't have to go to work every single day from 9 till 5. You know, that shouldn't be our normal, and there's a million different ways to do that. It doesn't mean you have to travel full time, or it doesn't mean you have to quit your job, but you know, working a 4-day week could work in your life, and that could give you a whole extra day with your family or doing whatever you want to do.
100%. And I think the fact that you were able to take a job that was in an office and take it on the road is perhaps sort of proof to people that if they are in a corporate job now, the first step might be asking whether they can take that job on the road, right?
Oh, 100%. If I wasn't working in the not-for-profit, I would still have my job. It's just, unfortunately, in that world, everything's based on grants, and there's certain elements to my job that I couldn't fulfill on the road. And there's not enough funding to just fund like a social media person, basically. But if I was working in a regular job and I went on the road during COVID, I would 100% still be able to keep my job and work. So it's definitely doable.
There you go. You heard it here first. Awesome, Mindy. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and I hope our listeners got a lot out of our conversation.
Thank you for having me.
So what did you think? Are you going to ask your boss if you can take your corporate job on the road with you? Let us know in the comments if this video has inspired you to just ask. And as always, remember to subscribe. See you next time.